Hello and welcome to the Journey Insider. I'm your host, Siraj Barwani, Chief Strategy Officer at Illumin, a publicly owned journey advertising company. Journey Insider is focused on conversations with leaders in the media and marketing industry, leaders with stellar careers with a lasting impact on the industry. Our guests are usually blazing a trail through uncharted territory in the quest for solutions in our fast paced, innovation driven industry. I can't think of inviting a better leader with breakthrough insights on the media and the marketing industry. With me today is Julia Fitzgerald, CMO and author of Midsize. Good morning, Julia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. I am so glad you could join us this morning.
Thank you.
I want to let my audience know that with me today is Julia Fitzgerald, CMO at American Lung and author of Midsize. Welcome. So glad you could join us today. Julia, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you for having me. I always enjoy the opportunities to talk with you, Siraj. You have such good questions. I'm, as you mentioned, I'm the CMO at the American Lung Association. And, I've been a CMO or a senior executive for about 20 years now. And one of the things that makes my career, I'll just say, a little unique is that I've had the opportunity to actually serve in a lot of different business models, including CPG, retail, franchising, B2B, B2B2C, and now not for profit. So prior to coming to the Lung Association, I served at some organizations, and Suraj, you've worked with me at some of them. Thermos, Sylvan Learning, Sears
Yes.
Kmart, VTech, Hallmark, and AZEC. And kind of through all of this experience, I can confidently say that size does matter in the work experience.
Yes, I am quite certain after reviewing your book. I must tell you, it's an amazing um, capture of insights from some of the key moments in your career, which is just absolutely fascinating, right? Just so you know, Julia, our audience is also primarily mid-tier, mid-size organization. So this is like a perfect audience who would be very interested in learning from you. So first of all, congratulations on the release of Midsize.
Thank you.
It must feel like a release of an album, right? Or something like that, right?
It kind of does. And I'm happy that I did it. It had kind of been percolating in the back of my mind, but I really wrote it to pay it forward, Suraj. I have been working for years in different size organizations, and I have learned so much through mentors and experience and outside partners. And there is a distinct skill set to being a successful marketer in a mid-size organization. So I basically took my playbook and I took stories from other people in mid-size organizations, CEOs and CMOs, and I put it together in the book Midsize, hoping it would also be useful to other marketers.
Of course it would be. So in that, given where you are right now, right, would American Lung qualify as a mid-size organization?
Definitely. So in the book, I define a mid-size organization as a company that is between 100 million to really about $800 million in revenue.
Okay.
And the reason that that makes a difference is because I'm going to call it the Goldilocks effect. At $100 million in revenue, there is enough of a marketing budget, probably, to let a marketer do really meaningful work.
Sure.
But it's also small enough that the collaboration has to be there. An individual marketer will probably have a significant role and have a lot of kind of skin in the game in the organization's successes. So I think that 100 million to 800 million is a great sweet spot for enough money, but you also have enough responsibility to feel like you're really learning how to market for success.
Oh, fantastic. I think we've essentially characterized it that the size of revenue or donations, however you measure the size of the organization, many times it's also correlated with the overall employee base, right? Because the larger it is, the larger the employee and the staff base and so forth. But I think the way I'm understanding it from you is size has amazing ramifications broadly, just beyond, in terms of the effectiveness of the executive like you or anybody in marketing who comes in and what they can do with that. And I'd like to dig in there a little bit further. So, Julia, what motivated you to write Midsize?
Well, really, two things. One is to pay it forward. After all of these years in different size organizations, I've had a lot of experiences and coaching, and I've come to realize that there's a different skill set to being successful in a mid-size organization. So this is my moment to share that with everybody, and hopefully it's useful to other people doing marketing in mid-size organizations. My second reason was really motivated by the Great Resignation. A lot of us went home during the pandemic and had a long think about what it is we like to do professionally. And in midsize, I'd like to offer a perspective to marketers charting their own career path to say, the size of the organization will really have an impact on what your work experience will feel like.
Yes, yes. No, that's very, very interesting, right? There has been that major shift. We're all noticing it, right? What I'd like to do here is to get your insights on two major themes here today. The first theme is, what are those challenges and opportunities that you face as an organization when you're mid-sized? And then in the second half of it, we will go to, as a professional, how do you manage your career and the way you make a difference and so forth, sort of from the professional's perspective, right? Because your insights cover a broad spectrum, and I see that in like two big buckets, right? So let's focus on the organization for now, right?
Sure.
Given where you are right now, how do how do you see a mid-sized organization in terms of what it faces day to day in the marketplace?
Well, first, it's important for me to explain how I define a mid-sized organization in the book. And I really define it as a company that has top line revenues between 100 million and 800 million.
Hmm.
And that's kind of that Goldilocks place where there's enough budget there to do real marketing, but there's not unlimited funds. You really do need to use stewardship. Um, American Lung Association does fall into that
Hmm.
range.
Hmm.
And American Lung, much like other mid-sized organizations, needs to think about really three big unifying ideas as a mid-sized firm. One is budgets and stewardship with budgets, getting the most ROI out of
Hmm.
the budgets that are available.
Hmm.
The second is really how do you do the best with a smaller staff? Again,
Hmm.
by definition, you can't have so many people that you have a specialist in every area. So you have to figure out how do you hire, how do you train, and how do you coordinate.
Yeah.
And the third thing that falls out of that is kind of a natural one, which is in a mid-sized organization, you really have to focus on collaboration because there's not as much budget and there's not as many people. So you have to figure out how you really get the most out of the assets that you have on hand.
Totally, totally makes sense. Now, there are some very, very critical strategic choices you make when you are at the level where you are in the C-suite in a mid-sized organization, right? And given the experience you have, previously when we were having conversations in preparation for this discussion here, you have developed some really, really powerful rules in terms of the way those choices are made. And there are a couple areas that pop up repeatedly on which our audience would love to hear your perspective. First of all, how do you make choices on things given limited staff, given limited resources, what to do in-house versus where you should be hiring external talent, service organizations, agencies, vendors, whatever?
Now, Suraj, this is a key question for every mid-sized organization. Where is that balance of in-house versus external agencies and partnerships? In mid-size, I talk about my two rules of thumb
Mhm.
that I always use. In the first case, if the organization is taking on a project that has a finite beginning and an end, but
Mhm.
it will consume massive bandwidth from your team,
Mhm.
and if it's not core to what you do, that is the perfect time to bring in a partner. A great example of this is at American Lung Association. We needed to redo our whole website.
Mhm.
So it would have taken a lot of hours. If we would have tried to bootstrap it, it would have shut down our ability to do our day-to-day business. And we still wouldn't have come up with the best product because our core business is saving lives
Mhm.
by protecting lung health. It
Of
is
course.
not building websites. So that is case one where I would always recommend getting an outside partner. The second rule of thumb is around areas that are, again, not core to your business and are exceptionally dynamic. And I'll give you another case in point. I almost always hire out my digital advertising. So I'll have a person inside who is the coordinator and accountable for it. But I'll have partners outside because digital advertising changes on the daily.
I see.
It is not my core business. And so I can learn more, I can be more effective as the American Lung Association. If I have a partnership with someone who has multiple clients, they live in digital marketing, they know everything that is evolving, changing, and how to optimize our work. So those are the two areas where I would always opt to work with an outside partner as a mid-sized company.
No, that makes total sense. Now, similarly, I think recruiting, managing talent, and so forth, the fact that you can only have few people on the staff at any point in time, have you developed a criteria in terms of the types of talent you feel are best suited for in a mid-sized organization?
Over the years, I have. And it's not so much about, oh, always find somebody who went to this kind of a school or always find somebody who has these few talents. It's really more about that employee's motivation. So even in the interviews, I look for passion. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to ask this person to probably wear a lot of hats.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for resourcefulness. Now, if I don't have a mega budget to do a content shoot, is this person going to figure out how to get the most out of it and be excited about that?
Mm-hmm.
And the other piece really comes down to the ability, especially when I'm hiring managers, to be a player coach. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to hire a manager, on a mid-size, I can't have a person who only hands out the assignments and checks up on them. It has to be a person who also has their own pile. Like, I'm going to do this much and I'm going to manage and coach you. So those are some of the characteristics that I look for in people who I know will thrive in a mid-size.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I think a term that is frequently used, I've heard from others, is you're looking for an athlete essentially who has the real constitution to be able to move around in various aspects of sports, I guess.
But it's also the drive. I'm
Exactly.
looking for somebody who would thrive in that environment, and they look for organizations where they can build multiple blocks for their career.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of that curiosity, the drive to expand and be a broader collaborative player. Those are the types of things that I look for. And when I look at the people who are on my teams who are successful, they seem to share those traits.
Absolutely. That's great. Now that you are on the talent recruitment side of the discussion we just had, let's flip it and let's talk about it from the professional side of it. The younger generation, who is the up and coming, they are coming in with amazing ambitions in the marketing ranks, right? They have the drive, they want to come, they have big ideas, big expectations, they really want to make a difference. Uh, would you mind sharing some of the key aspects of understanding around mid-size versus enterprise that they should be thinking about as to where they might be a better fit? Uh,
Sure, sure. Well, there's no right or wrong. This is really about finding your own personal fit and knowing what it is that you're looking for. For professionals earlier in their career, I generally counsel them to keep an eye on where they want to go, and then to also look at the experience blocks that they want to put together to
mhm,
get to their end goal. I find that for a lot of young professionals, this is an easier kind of path to navigate in a mid-sized organization.
mhm,
The roles are not as defined.
yes.
So there's an ability to collaborate. I think there's more ability to learn new things, to get, I'll just say, outside of your lane.
Mhm,
And the collaboration is more welcomed instead of viewed as threatening.
mhm,
The other thing is, what is it that you would like to see as your day to day world?
mhm,
My experience in large versus mid-sized organizations is that in a large company, you get to benefit from a lot of resources, a lot of dollars, big budgets. You can do some exciting things, but you may be a very small part of it, especially
mhm.
early in your career. So, on the other hand, in a mid-sized organization, you might be thrown in a little bit over your head and you get to like figure it out and have a big impact
Mhm,
on a campaign, an initiative, something that really drives the company.
mhm, mhm. It seems like you get more ownership in some respects, right? In a small, mid-sized organization versus
I,
in a
yeah,
bigger organization. I think there is just so much you really need to corral the resources and motivate, right?
that's a great way to put it. Ownership and the ability to like get a little bit out of your depth and take on that next level of challenge. That's what a lot of marketers find very exciting. Like, what's my next level, and how do I get there?
Excellent. I have to tell you, the mid-size will really make an amazing difference. To both sides of the house, whether it's the organization that's trying to figure out how it should really navigate itself, or the professionals who want to figure out where's a great fit. I have one parting question for you. Um, what was the most surprising part about writing this book?
Um, I would say it's what comes back when you put something like a book out into the world. It's amazing what comes back. I was able to interview a lot of people. So there's a lot of talented folks quoted and their stories in the book. And it just leads so many paths to different people and different organizations. And I've had just a huge outpouring of young professionals asking for advice, telling me that they've kind of found their path after reading this. So I think the biggest surprise has been the feedback from very unexpected quarters.
No, that's fascinating. That must be so satisfying, right?
It is, and it is in line with why I wrote it, hoping to help other people who are either looking for their path or they are loving being in a mid-sized organization and they would appreciate somebody else's playbook to see how they can accelerate their own.
Yeah, it validates their choices, right?
Exactly.
So, Julia, what was the most surprising part of writing Midsize?
Oh boy. You know, I think it would be the outpouring that came from very unexpected places. Other mid-sized marketers finding validation, people who are looking for a career path telling me it was helpful. And then the second big surprise is how public I would have to be and how how I'd have to be the face of this book. I think that really surprised me, Suraj.
Well, but you know what? This is what people want to know. Who is the person behind the book, right? And so that's just the same curiosity element that comes with it. So, number one, where can somebody find the book? And for lazy people like me, can we find an audio version of your book?
So people can find the book on Amazon.com, Midsize by Julia Fitzgerald. It's a very short book. I purposefully made it short so it's an easy read. But lots of people do like Audible. So I will have a listen to an Audible version next month. So, and I'm going to do it thinking of you, Suraj, because I know that's how you like to consume books.
Excellent. Oh, so amazing. I am so happy for you, Julia. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.